For the main interlude imaginary scramble campaign, it's not just gonna be Van Gogh being the only foreigner making her glorious return. We are also going to have Yang, not gonna try to pronounce her last name over here because I'm not trying to get roasted in the comments, but Yang is coming back. And she's another one of those servants that is fairly good. I mean, whenever I run into a berserker boss or just really any boss in general, I kind of weep a little bit on the inside over here on the NA side of things because my Yang is stuck on my JP account. So anytime I run into especially berserker bosses over there, she kind of just makes light work out of them because her kit is just real good. Nothing too broken or anything by that, stretch of the imagination, but she is just a very solid single target arts unit. Now, again, I do have to warn you, if you do want to go for Yang, make sure this is a servant that you actually really like. We're going to break her down in today's video, but we have some very strong, particular single target art servants coming out next year. That would be Draco, Castoria Berserker, and then we also have Kenshin at the very end of the year. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but all three of those servants are better than Yang. However, again, that does not mean that if you do really like Yang, you think she's really cute, or you just like her playstyle, that she's not worth going for. Just if you're trying to go for the meta options and maybe you're a little bit more free to play, maybe save for more of those guys instead of going for Yang. Maybe try to get her on like a GSSR or something. Although I guess that kind of defeats the whole purpose of being free to play. But I know most of you free to play players. I know most of you guys still do the GSSR. I see what's going on over there. But regardless, we're going to break Yang down in today's video, so that way if you decide to go summon for this servant, you have all the details that you need to know for this servant. And like always, if you enjoy the daily FGO content grind, you enjoy being informed on both the NA and JP side of things, then I would really appreciate a like on the video and maybe even a little subscription to the channel, as it is free and it helps me out more than you know, especially during some of these trying times or down periods in the game where I'm trying to make content to keep people interested. Because hey, I like this game, and if Lasengle's not going to be dropping anything, they want to give us 50 days of downtime, I'm going to try to make something entertaining in the meantime. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and start diving into her kit, starting off with her hits. And immediately you'll notice that she's rocking that double quick double arts deck, which I think is okay. Personally, I'm more of a fan of the double buster double arts, but this way she can maybe drop a couple of stars, because she does have some pretty decent quick cards at 4 hits a pop with 15% star gen. You're not really going to be relying on her to make all the stars for the team, but with the advent of quick chains being a little bit better, I don't really know when you're going to be doing quick chains with her, but hey, you get 20 stars instead, and mighty chains giving you that additional 20% additional crit chance. Maybe those little bit of stars that she's dropping on the average, mighty chain or brave chain even, will be enough to kind of just let you get by. But she's really not a crit servant, so it's not that big of a deal if you don't have a healthy amount of stars in rotation. Although the weird thing is that she is an art servant, and you'll notice that her NP gain is a little bit on the lower end. You might be thinking 0.51%, that's not super great. I mean, she does have the 4-hit arts card, so whenever she does get those crits on those arts cards, they will refund a decent amount because of the higher hits. But one, a little bit hard again to kind of have those stars in rotation. She's not really a crit servant. Although I guess now we do actually have Proto Merlin, in the game, and she's actually really good for producing stars. But you might think that her NP gain's a little bit on the lower end. Well, don't worry, she has 2 things in her kit that are designed to help her kind of get around that. She's not genning a whole lot of NP naturally, but her skills do help make up for that. Now, unfortunately, over here at ZTL Industries, we do like to see at least a 5-hit extra attack, as that is the gold standard. Because if you're unaware, the extra attack is a composite card that gens stars, NP, and does big boy damage, and especially with the advent of a pen skills, it is now as omnipotent as ever. And unfortunately, Yang just has to lose a couple of points for not having that 5-hit extra, but she more than makes up for it with some of her skills. Starting off with her first skill over here, this is just a nice grab bag of effects. It gives her invincibility for a turn and also taunts the entire enemy party towards herself for the turn. So in theory, you're pretty much protecting the entire party, not just herself. You can use this to say, protect yourself from an enemy NP, but it also takes all of the heat off of your other supports and whatnot, which can be very nice. There are moments where one of your Castorias, one of your Proto Merlins, or hey, even a Tamamo or a Waver, if you have to use one of those for your arts teams, are going to come under pressure, and being able to alleviate some of that off of them is rather nice. But then they also give her 10% NP every single turn for 3 turns, and they did give her the effect to bomb 25 stars. Again, she's not really a crit servant. This is just kind of a nice little thing that she's able to do. You can get some pretty nice arts crits off if you want to use her with, say, someone like Lady Avalon, you know, with that 100% free crit damage she has on her art skill that she can give to her, but I wouldn't focus too much on it. Just kind of treat it like, say, a Kiara, where Kiara has a crit buff on her third skill, but you're not really building Kiara to be a crit servant. When I play with Yang, I like to use these to kind of try to get some crits on those arts cards to get even more refund back, to set myself up for, you know, subsequent NPs, so I can kind of just obliterate the enemy as fast as possible. But skill 1 over here is really nice. It also is kind of nice in the way that if you're hurting for skill materials, as she is an extra class servant, so instead of needing the traditional like statues and monuments and all that stuff, she needs just a bunch of odd materials. And if you're kind of low on those, you can leave this skill a little like unleveled. Realistically, I think the one that's the most important that you really do want to get leveled as soon as possible is the second skill. You still want to level this one because you would like to have that invincibility on a 6-turn cooldown, but Yang is kind of nice in the way that if you don't have the materials, the first and third skill can kind of remain a little unleveled just for a little bit of time before you get that second one done, because the second skill over here is where I think a lot of her power is concentrated. Being able to suck up NP from the entire enemy party, and then depending on how many enemies there were, you get 20% NP. So even in a one-on-one battle, this is at least a 20% battery, plus her first skill giving you that 10%. So realistically, against one enemy over the course of 3 turns, you can expect to generate 50% NP, which is not bad. But then, you know, you start fighting 3 enemies, that's 60%. You fight 6 enemies, which is starting to become more uncommon than it was like rare when it kind of first dropped for a Lost Belt 6. We're starting to see this in some farming nodes as well now, which I don't know if that really affects someone like Yang if you're going to be using her for farming, but in boss fights, you know, we also have, I believe, a few of them that have featured some like 6 enemy nodes. Particularly, I'm recalling some of the Bleached Earth missions, and I believe there are also some advanced quests that feature this. So kind of nice that you can gen 120% NP. That's just really nice to be able to do. But then on skill level, she's getting defense down on the entire enemy party by 20% for 3 turns, which is also why I'm saying you probably want to level this one first so you can get that maximum NP out of this, and you could also get some maximize your damage on that defense down. Overall, just a very, very strong skill. Does it have a little bit of variance in how strong it's going to be? Yeah, obviously a 20% battery is not going to be as strong as the maximum 120% battery, but on average, what you go into a boss fight, there's usually like 2 to 3 enemies, you know, that's just the average. So 40 to 60% battery ain't bad, especially when it's also letting you control the enemy's NP, which you'll notice that Yang does a lot of. You know, she's able to not only protect herself, but control who is getting attacked, and then also she can control when the enemy is going to be firing their NP, which is just very nice. Now, the third skill over here combos very nicely with the first one, because the first skill, you'll recall, gave a taunt to herself. This one combos with that because she gives herself the Living Flame buff, which is unique to her. For 3 attacks for 3 turns, whenever she is attacked, that enemy that attacked her will have their defense lowered by an additional 10% for 3 turns, and that enemy will also get burned, which is going to be very important for her NP, while also buffing up her damage by 20%. So that way, I don't know, for whatever reason, even if they have Pierce Invincibility up for some reason, I know there's some bosses that have Perma Pierce Invincibility, you at least have the defense to kind of mitigate the damage that they're going to be doing to you. I mean, I don't think you're really going to live an NP off of 20% defense. I don't know, maybe if it's a really weak berserker, you do resist them. Maybe you do live that, but more importantly, you're going to be using this to maximize on her damage, because if you've ever looked at damage charts and stuff for Yang, you'll notice that she has this Son of the Calamitous Star, like, additional buff. And that's this right here. This is where she can get a lot of extra damage depending on how much she's attacked. And it does work when she has the invincibility up as well. So realistically, against one enemy where you have the weaker battery, that's where her damage is going to be consistently the best, because they're probably just going to attack you 3 times outright right out the gate. Maybe 2 if they want to pop a skill, but you'll build up that damage rather quickly, and you can just kind of keep smacking them into the ground, because once you get the burn on them and this Calamitous Star debuff, she can really start putting the wombo combos on your enemies, because on her NP over here, the burn that she initially does, I mean, that's not the most important thing. It does set you up for subsequent turns if your third skill is, for whatever reason, not working, but it's that overcharge effect of dealing bonus damage to burned enemy. I mean, that is a free power mod on basically anybody that can be debuffed by burn. I mean, I think there's like 1 or 2 servants in the game that are immune to burn. So aside from them, Yang's pretty much got free eats on everybody, which is why if you look at her base damage, you'll be like, oh, well, like 33k, that's not very high. I mean, she's being like, out damaged by Locusta and Dobra Lancer. Like, that ain't very good. But then you look over at her power mods and you see, oh, okay, as soon as she burns the enemy, which you can also put command codes on her, this is where those random burn command codes can really come in handy, because you could just have her use a face card in front of her NP, get the burn down, and then your power mod is immediately online, because the burn on her NP does not apply first. Do not think that it automatically applies, because it's not one of those proc first effects. But as soon as it does have the burn on them, her damage gets pretty nice. And then if you can start getting those defense downs on enemies, the damage you're going to be able to do is going to be quite insane. It's going to be pretty nutty. Which is why, even though I do have people like an NP2 Kenshin, I do have a Draco and a Castoria Berserker, ironically enough, all the single target arts units that are really good, I managed to get lucky enough to snag on my JP account, free to play, by the way. I still will break out Yang every now and then, just because she's just kind of nice. You know, sometimes you just want to break somebody out that can just do free damage on someone, especially against Berserkers, because, I mean, Zerks kind of mitigate Kenshin's whole thing of being a ruler and being extra tanky. So sometimes I just want to go ahead and bring Yang, someone who can resist that, and just put the Wombo combo on them, put the hurt on them. Plus, her skill set works really nicely with a lot of the other supports, you know, being able to help mitigate the enemy's NP and control where they attack, while also being pretty self-sufficient in and of herself. I mean, that's just a really solid servant all around. Again, I can't say that she's a must summon, you gotta get your hands on this servant, but she will put in some work for you, you know, she will give you your quartz worth, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. As even to this day, I still break her out every now and then, and she'll, you know, do fine against some bosses. Again, not the craziest. I think she's being power crept by some of the other single target art servants, but I mean, that's a gacha game for you. Your older servants are just gonna get power crept eventually. It's more so, can they still kind of hold their own? Sure, there might be better options, but that doesn't mitigate how good this servant is. An example I used back in the day is when Summer Ibuki first came out. I was like, well, say that Summer Masashi is worth like $1 million. Well, Summer Ibuki would be worth like $2 million. I mean, that means that Summer Ibuki is worth more, but it doesn't change the fact that Summer Masashi is still worth $1 million, right? Her value has not gone down. They've just put out a newer product that is worth more. And that's kind of how to look at the, you know, Yang and the, you know, single target art servant, you know, situation. She might not be worth as much as the other servants, but it's not like her value's gone down. So let me know if you're going to be summoning for Yang in the comments down below. Again, I would highly advise, if you're more on the free-to-play side, or someone who's looking to try to put your account on the best foot forward, maybe just save for Draco, Summer Castoria, and then Kenshin, who comes out at the very end of next year, as they are all phenomenal servants. But if you absolutely love Yang, maybe you're rereading the main interlude that just dropped and you're like, you know what, I just gotta have this servant, then at least in good conscience you can know that she is quite solid. But with all that being said, if you enjoyed the video, again, I would appreciate a like on the video, maybe a little subscription to the channel. And if you want to go that extra mile, I do have a Patreon link down in the description down below, where I'm working on doing some lore videos, since I'm not sure if I can really post those on YouTube anymore. Like, I really wanted to talk about Ordeal Call 3 and go over the story, but I don't want to get sniped by Sony, so I might throw those up over on the Patreon. And then also there's stuff like movie and game night that I'm doing with the patrons as well. So if you want to be a part of stuff like that, go down to the description down below, and whatever tier, you know, I'm just happy for any support that I'm able to get. But even just watching, liking the video, and subscribing is more than enough, so don't feel bad if you can't support the channel in any extra way. It's just there for people that want to go that extra mile. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice one, and I will catch you guys in the next video later today. Peace.